This is you all's introduction to the WBGO audience. So this is huge. I'm so excited that you guys are here. Everybody, the String Queens, you just heard them perform the title track from their brand new holiday EP, My Favorite Things. They're school teachers by day and concert performers by night. They've just been awarded the 2020 Aspire Award by the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, that is. They're based in my hometown of Washington, D.C. So you know I love them especially because of that. They performed on stages really across the globe, from Carnegie Hall to Radio City Music Hall to the Moscow Conservatory. The members are Dawn Johnson, wave at us.
Hi, everybody.
Elise Sharp.
Yes, hello, everyone.
And Kendall Isidore.
Good evening, everybody.
And they perform everything, you name it, from the Baroque era to jazz to whatever's on the Billboard Top 100 right now, really. They play it all. And they've shared the stage individually and as a collective with several artists, from Common to Solange to the late Aretha Franklin, Ariana Grande. The list goes on. And they're back with a brand new holiday EP, My Favorite Things. They released their debut, by the way, last year in 2019. And yes, I love it. Yes. And so yes. Okay, come on, merch.
I love it.
Oh my goodness. She's spreading all kinds of good tidings of comfort and joy with this EP. And I absolutely, it brings warmth to my heart to listen to it, because really I know I didn't realize that now more than ever, I really need everything that comes with the holiday spirit.
Yeah.
And you all have really put this out at such a pertinent time for so many of us. It's been such a trying year. So, oh my gosh, first off, hi.
Hi, Keanna. We miss you in DC too. So good to see you.
We definitely miss you.
But I'm just really excited that I'm able to introduce you all to WBGO and really just the world of jazz in the New Jersey, New York area. I think you guys, you're amazing. You're just phenomenal women.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Keanna. As are you, my dear. As are you.
Yes. Thank you. But tell me all about, gosh, first off, let's start with, we have been waiting. I feel like I have been waiting for your debut release for so long. And you released it last year in 2019. Tell me, first of all, when you guys got together in the lead up to finally recording that first debut album from the String Queens.
Man, Keanna, it really is a love story, I would say. And I'm sure all three of us will chime in at some point in some part of the story as to how we came together. We love telling the story. So thank you for asking us and allowing us to share it with your listeners, the listeners of WBGO. It all started when actually Dawn and Elise first met, right? Like Dawn was a student at Juilliard, and she was sort of commuting back and forth. They sort of met in an orchestra, like we all started in our string musician careers as orchestra players. And so they were both first chairs of their section. I just want to say that.
Okay.
And we get to sit next to each other, you know, as the principal violist and the principal cellist. And so they forged a relationship that just has continued to grow and blossom. And the crazy thing is, I had no idea about either one of them. You know, I started Howard probably around 2006, 2005, sometime around that then. And sometime toward the end of Howard, I was working as an intern at the Howard University Middle School of Math and Science. And so here's how Dawn and I sort of met. I was literally in the teacher's lounge at work one day, right? Talking about what I needed to do that weekend. Oh, I think I had a wedding or something, and I was missing a violist, right? I needed it was a trio gig, and I needed a violist. And so I was just saying out loud, man, I really need a violist for this gig. And then all of a sudden, Dawn's husband, who I worked with at the time, literally said, well, you know, my wife plays viola, right? Like, Brian Johnson is so cool. Like, he's really chill like that too. You know, my wife plays viola, right? And I'm like, sure she does. Like, no one says that. People say my wife plays piano or cello or violin, but never viola. He's like, no, seriously, like, I'm very serious. She went to Juilliard. And as soon as he said that, I was like, just go ahead and give me her number. Like, I'm going to give her a call, and she's hired just by default. And I think we rode together for that gig, and it was an awesome gig. We had a great talk on the way to the gig, on the way back, and we've been really friends and sisters since. And Elise and I sort of met on the jazz scene through DC Jazz Fest. We were doing some background gigs together, a lot of improv work, jazz work, and man, just the funkiest cellist on earth. And I'm very confident saying that. I've never met anybody that sounds like Elise Sharp. And so she and I had sort of met. And then, does somebody want to take it from the birthday party part?
Yes, Dawn was like, you know what? I need a cello and a violinist for this wedding, for this classical wedding gig that she had. And so she asked both of us separately, and then had the great idea. She goes, hey, actually the wedding is the day after my daughter's first birthday. Why don't the two of you just come to my daughter's first birthday, play some little kids tunes, and then you guys can meet and we can play together before we get on this gig on Sunday. And I guess because Kendall and I still haven't, we didn't come together yet. And so we individually said, yeah, sure. Now, Dawn gave us a notebook of Little Einstein, Twinkle, Twinkle, just the cutest, just kids' 1-year-old baby tunes and things that, she was exposing her daughter to. And, we plan and things go a different way. We get to the birthday party, there are babies on the blanket, parents on the blanket. I think Kendall and I were the only two without a baby. We have our instruments, so
right.
But then, of course, Dawn is not just, the contractor for this gig. She's the mom of the birthday girl. So it's funny when you think you have all this time, and it's like, actually, I don't think there's any time for us to sit and play. But it was great, Kendall and I getting there and getting to talk, and then seeing the other kids, and of course, seeing baby birthday girl and Brian and everything.
Yeah.
So we decided, we'll have time to sit in and talk and do things together at the gig. And we did.
Yeah.
And this sounds so corny, but after the first note, or maybe that's an exaggeration, but the first piece, it was magical. It was just beautiful how we fell into each other in our playing. And like Dawn and I did do a lot of orchestral gigs together, but the intimate chamber works we hadn't really done. And then Kendall and I with the duet, but the three of us together, it was magic. It was exactly what was needed for what we needed. And we just naturally vibe with each other.
Yeah. And it was a feeling, right? All of it. It was a feeling. When we make music together, it's so much more than just the notes and the rhythm.
Yes.
And we just want to make sure that every time we pick up our instruments to play, all of our arrangements, we're directly speaking to people's souls. And so that was something that really resonated with us on our first gig was, oh, wow, we played Mozart, Eine kleine Nacht music 1,000 times in our careers, but we've never heard it like this before. We've never felt it like this before. We've never played it like this before. And there were so many beautiful nuances, and we call them Kindleisms because you just don't hear them.
I love that.
From a violinist. And Elise, the way she can, go back and forth between just being this brilliant cellist with this virtuosic sound, but also then putting her bow down and then plucking like she plays the double bass. And it just all just sort of fits and works together. And it's such a joy to make music with both Kendall and Elise.
Oh my goodness. It was love at first bow, can we say?
I like that. You might have to use that. Write that down. Write that down.
Love at first bow for sure. Wow. Magic. Yeah. And when you play, it really does sound like you guys have been playing together for eons, it seems. How long has it been? Your daughter's how old now, Dawn?
Oh, Briley is now 7 years old, going on 17. Just kidding. She's 7 She's 7 years old. And yeah, that was about 7 years ago. And so, we had talked throughout the years, but had never officially become a group until we sat down and said, hey guys, we're starting to play all of these gigs together. We're starting to get called more for gigs. We really love each other. We love our sound. We love our mission. We love our message. Let's create something with this. And so we sat down in Elisa's classroom, I think one day, and on a whiteboard that she uses for her students, we took out the dry eraser marker and just started sketching names on the board that we thought would be a good fit for us. We had everything from what was
green beans or
string
cheese. Yes.
What was the other one? Spectrum. That was another one. We had so many different names. And the String Queens, when we thought about it and everybody said it, it just had this air to it, and it really fit with each of us. But more importantly, you know, we're educators as well. And so we teach at KIPP DC charter schools, public charter schools in Washington, DC. And so we love for our students to call themselves young queens and young kings, and just give them a sense of, you know, royalty and integrity about themselves that they can always aspire to and hold on to.
Absolutely. So you all, let's talk about that, because you are educators first. Tell me why it's important to you to I guess give this sort of sense of culture to our young people, especially young people of color.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it means everything, Keanna. I mean, honestly, when we step in front, and we're not stepping in front of our kids right now, right? Like, we're teaching virtually.
Wow,
I know every time I step in front of kids, or I'm in front of kids, I'm really just trying to be the teacher the teachers I had, the great, amazing teachers I had, right? While also like juxtaposing that with whatever I was missing, whatever I didn't get necessarily from some of the music teachers that I had along the way, which many of them were great, right? But I just try to take all of those experiences, the orchestra experiences, the all-state experiences, the private lessons instructors, and definitely the teachers that spoke the most to me are the ones that influenced the kind of teacher that I am today. And it means the world to us to really create the next generation of young musicians. And whether they go to conservatory or not, right? We believe that we know we are teaching them skills like dedication, what it means to commit yourself to something, whether it's short term or long term. And we just want whatever they get from our classes to carry them not just in the immediate future, but in the long term future.
How do you get young people to connect to the music? Because I feel like there's so many different sources of distractions, especially now with social media and cell phones. Every child, 5-year-olds have cell phones these days. So how do you get young people interested, especially in European classical music?
I'm going to chime in for a second, because the irony of this moment is that I'm reading the comments here, and there's actually a parent of a couple of my former students, Mr. Tucker. Shout out to Mr. Tucker. In the comments.
I know Mike.
Tucker. He's a KIPP DC parent. I've taught 3 of his children cello and viola and violin. But to make that connection, we actually connect what we do inside of our classrooms to the world at large, right? It's not just an instrumental experience in and of itself, and it never has the opportunity to connect with something else going on in someone's life. And so, we take all of these, wonderful, popular and famous classical motifs and transform them into something that's a little more modern, a little more, sometimes even culturally relevant. And I always think of, Beethoven's Ode to Joy, or, Mozart wrote the melody for Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and using all of these wonderful, familiar melodies and say, hey guys, let's take this last movement melody from Beethoven's Ninth Symphony with Ode to Joy, and now let's put a little beat behind it. Or now let's make sure, we change up the bass line a little bit, or you take a solo here, or I want to hear you improv over this. And so they take all of the things that we're teaching them on their instruments and apply them to things of their taste, things that they like, and everyday things in their lives.
And you know what? Some things, you're so right. And I think it's the interaction that we have with our kids, and just the ability, hey, here's an instrument. Hey, here's a D. I play and then you play it. What is interesting to me is I asked my kids about a month ago, tell me what music you want to play. Because I have a virtual orchestra. Tell me what you want to play. Do you know my kids that Jingle Bells, Twinkle Twinkle, Hot Cross Buns? I mean, they named standard beginner pieces. They didn't name Broadway, which I love, by the way. My kids are educating me a little bit on the hip hop. I'm a Broadway fan, okay? They didn't say that. And I think it's really them first trusting us that we're going to give them what they need, and them seeing our instruments as, oh, you can do that and you do that well. Oh, I want to try it too. And it almost doesn't even matter what they give them. They just want to know how to do it. Right. And then, with that desire, of course, we're going to dig into our own past and go, you know what? I used to listen to WBGC growing up and didn't think I could actually play that music on my instrument. And we're like, hey, guess what? We can actually do this. How about we try a D major scale, which you should know, but let's put it with a beat. let's do it like this. I mean, it's really the creativity. And I love what you said, Kendall, about, giving what you didn't have. I mean, we can all say we had great teachers, but there was a traditional way to do things. We were actually moving away from that and making what we do traditional, because traditional is really speaking to the child and giving the child what the child needs, meet them where they are. And they're usually just at a great space, and the best space to be is wanting, the desire to get more. And we're right there with them, wanting to get everything we have.
Yeah. It's funny because a lot of, your European classical purists, it's forbidden in a way to improv or to go off and add, a little something extra to it, but you guys make it okay.
Yeah. I taught a lesson to my, I'm sorry, Kendall, go ahead. Sorry. I taught a lesson to my students today. We're getting into Nutcracker season, and, we can't really get out and have live performances anymore. But we had this lesson today comparing Tchaikovsky's music from the Nutcracker with Debbie Allen's Hot Chocolate Nutcracker. And so just having students even draw a connection between, a Russian composer from the 1800s with an African-American woman who was born in the 1950s, and how she took a work that's almost 200 years old and made it into something so incredibly culturally relevant to young Black and brown children, that now it has become, for some young Black and brown children, the Nutcracker. Some children have never seen, Tchaikovsky Balanchine Nutcracker. All they know is Debbie Allen's Hot Chocolate Nutcracker. And that's something that's so special. And we have all of these gems and these jewels to really look back at the past. But now we have this, this luxury of being able to take things from the past and make them our own and use them to inspire us to create something for future generations.
Wow. Kendall, you wanted to add to that?
No, I was just going to say, I think we almost trick our students. I think about the very first day of orchestra for my students, the first day they walk in class, and I think about the lesson plan, right, that we sort of organize for them, right? And so there are a lot of clips that you use, right? And you use classical clips, but also I get my violin out and I put a little Cardi B on, honestly.
Yes.
And I, and play Bodak Yellow. And honestly, that's how I trick them into, like Elise said, playing the music that is relevant to them and motivates them. The other piece that I wanted to add was, we don't just teach them the repertoire and how to teach the instrument and the technique. We also teach them songs of their culture, like We Shall Overcome, right? They're playing Lift Every Voice and Sing, right? And they understand not only how to play the notes and the technique behind it, but also the story and the pain and the tragedy and the victory behind all of those pieces. And so outside of the Eurocentric stringed instrument way that we were all taught, right? We know the importance, and especially in this current climate, we know the importance of connecting with students that look like us, and we're the teachers that look like them, and making sure that we cover all of our bases. That's all I was saying.
Absolutely. Wow. So let's talk about, now let's shift gears a little bit, how you all, because again, I feel like it was I was waiting for you guys to come out with your debut album, and you finally did in 2019. Talk to me about the process of getting to the studio and how you put together the track list for this incredible debut album, which really does cross genres in so many different ways.
Go ahead, Kim.
People, I tell the story sometimes that just people in the marketing, arenas of, the music industry, they kind of say, when you're going to create an album, you should have a theme and you should sort of follow this theme and you should appeal to this audience and this audience. And it's really taboo to put a whole bunch of different styles and genres all on one album. But we actually believe that we could create an album that had something for everybody, right? We also chose pieces that we feel like when we play them, when we listen to them growing up and on the way to school or on the radio, right? The Earth, Wind and Fire, the Stevie Wonder, the things that were played in our houses around the holiday time or family time, those are the pieces that we like to play, right? And so that sort of informed it. I'm sure Donna at least have something to add too, because it was just a phenomenal process.
It was, and like you said, we're looking at what we enjoy, and the pieces that we have on the first album are also pieces we performed publicly. And you have to think, what were the crowd pleasers? Why not put the crowd pleasers on the album? They were all hits in public when we were performing. So, and we wanted to get a snippet from different genres, so we really sat and thought about it. And we had another list. Again, we are list people. We make a list, and everyone, and what I love about it is everyone put their thoughts on a list. Let's everyone choose about 5 to 10 songs, and then let's just process of elimination. What really goes, what sounds good, what makes sense. And that's how we came up with our set list for the album. And the process of it was beautiful. It was long, but it was a lot of work. It was a lot. And the studio, people always say the video never lies, the recording never lies. And just getting in there and the process of it, I feel like that summer it was like, yeah, we're getting closer. It's a bonding thing, because and I don't mean to be so graphic's not the right word, but you're really naked in there.
Yeah.
And you're not at home practicing anymore. You're in the studio.
You're vulnerable.
Everything you have with the oops and the ahs, and you're killing it, in one session. In the other session, you're okay, I need to do that again. Right. But it's raw, it's real, and it gets emotional. I mean, it's just like anything when you have to go to work. Work isn't saying, are you okay today? Is this the day to do it? No, you have to go in there with whatever baggage or emotion.
Work doesn't care.
Yeah.
And you're right. You just have to pull yourself together. And the beauty of the String Queens is I have 2 beautiful women. When it's not a great day for me, they turn that sucker around, and it's okay to be where I am, first of all, in that headspace. And they pull me right out of it when it does get like, y'all, it's one of those days. And so the studio process was beautiful. I know sometimes I was like, okay, I'm not feeling, Spain is not working out for me today, and it's like, okay, we got it. We're going to do this. And it's just the relationship, the companionship of them, the partnership, sisterhood. Yes. Makes anything difficult just so like, we got this. We're going to do this together. You're never alone.
No.
Now you really garnered a lot of attention with your mashup of Crazy and really Deep. My God, you got on so many people's radar with that. Tell me about, I always wanted to ask you about how you all went about arranging that and deciding that it would be a great idea to mash up Gnarls Barkley with Adele. Like, how did you even come to that?
Who wants to hit that one?
Yeah. Well, we'll start with the key signature first of all. No, we figured out both songs are actually in the same key. And more importantly, both songs have this incredible feel to them. They're incredibly passionate. They're emotional. They take you on this journey of love and just everything that comes along with being in that space that we all are in sometimes on any sort of emotional journey that we're on. And so we said, hey, okay, well, we have Gnarls Barkley's Crazy. We love the feel. We love the vibe. We got creative, adding our own little twist to it. And then when we were rehearsing Adele's Rolling in the Deep separately, there was something again about Elise and that driving, that bass line that is just sort of the engine, the heartbeat, the momentum. Yeah. And when we put them together, I mean, and every time we played Crazy Rolling, we're always playing down into Elise's sound because she is sort of the glue that's holding all of this together. And that's actually meshing the 2 pieces together as well. And so it was just something about that driving bass line, the emotional journey it takes you on, the almost spirituality of the key of C minor, which is such a beautiful key to play in. And it just really spoke to our souls. And so when we started playing around with the different ideas and Kendall taking solos here and I'll take a solo here, it just blossomed into this beautiful creation. But I also will say about our arrangement process is we record everything. So it's not like, oh, hey, let's sit down one day and put these 2 pieces together. No, every time we sit down to rehearse, there's a recording that gets sent out immediately after, and we go home and we all do our homework. So then when we sit down for our next rehearsal, we've already built upon the ideas that we've heard in a recording so we can expand upon them in creating a new piece of music.
Wow, that's key.
I think my favorite part of that too, Keanna, is we put the 2 pieces together, and then before we end the piece, right, my favorite part of Crazy Rolling is when we actually play the 2 verse melodies at the same time.
Yes,
at the same time. So Dawn is carrying and I'm carrying Rolling in the Deep at the exact same time. And when that sucker linked together, that was the moment that we were like, okay, I think we have something here.
Yeah. Wow. Tell me, was that the thing that really caught the attention of you guys? I started seeing you everywhere. I started seeing you. I saw you, I think, one time at the March for Our Lives.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Adam Blackstone.
Yeah.
Was that the thing that really caught the attention of some of these big name artists? What was it? Because you guys really seemed to take off.
Well, I think we have you to thank also for a part of that, because we were on your show in DC, and that was a public performance. Was that one of the first times I think maybe we put together Crazy Rolling to perform
at DC?
At the DC radio station.
Podcast, Artemisy. I
didn't realize that was the first time. That was one of the first times. And I'm trying to think of another time that things just really opened up with Crazy Rolling. What do you guys have?
I was gonna say, I think too, like it helps that individually as musicians, we've had our own experiences even before we came to the group, right? And so like Elise having worked with Whitney, right? Dawn and I were just talking about how she's worked with John Legend and just so many others. And I had the opportunity to work with Adam on another gig some years prior. And so I think once we started sort of putting our footage out there, just even, this was back when Instagram only lets you do like a 15-second or 30-second video or something like that. And I think the first video we put out there was Isn't She Lovely? Mm-hmm. We really jumped on the social media train. We tried to follow, people who we thought would appreciate our music and appreciate our sound. And we're doing very unique things in the industry. And we also, Keanna, we're very intentional about trying to create what doesn't exist already, right? And I think when you think about like business and marketing and we're new. We've been a group for almost 4 years in June. It's so crazy to think of this. We're going to be 4 years old, and you try to figure out like, okay, you have the Vitamin String Quartets, excellent quartet. You have all of these different groups that exist, but there's no 90s medley that's out there with Mary J and Anita and Lauryn Hill. That doesn't exist. You can search for whatever sheet music, but you can't find that hardcore R&B. Right. And so I think once we really just took a chance, y'all. I would say, and we just said, like, this is a dream we have, and this is burning inside of our hearts. Let's just take a chance. Let's jump.
Yeah. And we're filling a hole that had previously been filled, and wow, it was waiting for you, it seems. Tell me, who have been some of your individual influences musically? I know it really probably runs the gamut, but who wants to take that first?
That's a big one.
I think, wow. I'm all over the place with this one. My parents, my dad is West Indian, and Bob Marley was huge in our household. And my mom is Motown. Diana Ross is huge. Was huge in our household, so that was an interesting place to be. So just the West Indian feel and just hardcore. My mom was hardcore Motown, like she was Diana, and I'm very serious. I mean, the hair and everything that she was doing, I think she wanted to be Diana. So I always had the R&B and the West Indian, but my dad was very intentional about us being like classically trained as well. I mean, I have a sister, so our first album was of Jacqueline Dupre, and it was her Elgar cello concerto, and so that was my very first, LP. And so that's where my dad was in the head. Yeah. And then I remember when we got a new stereo system, we went to the store and got Denise Williams. Like that was me. So I'm on that end. And then, like I said, WPGC was the station, but then we were Q107. I'm really dating myself here. So I was all over the place. My sister and I don't care what anyone says about this. We used to do the Cabbage Patch to Rostropovich, okay?
Yes.
Like my sister and I, we were hardcore. But we were like, oh, do you hear that? Oh my gosh, Rostropovich is just killing this, and just nerds with classical music. But also, it's funny how you don't realize you were doing it. As we talk about how we are with our students, we were actually doing that at home, using the two different styles or the different genres together. And so I've been, I remember being in my parents' closet in a fifth of Beethoven. Now here we are being trained classically, and I just happened to come across the album A Fifth of Beethoven, and I was like, you can do that with Beethoven. Da 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 don't 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 don't. I was like, you can do that, and I was like, wow, okay, I'm sold. I'll still play Tchaikovsky, but now I know I can put a funky beat with the guitar and bass up against that. And so I'm, like I said, I'm kind of all over the place with musical influences. My parents were huge with music and really believed in music education. I mean, I had to be pulled into my cello. They were like, you're not sitting around and doing nothing for the summer. And I had no idea that it was actually the thing I needed and wanted the most. Once we got it, they said, it's only for a summer. You're going to do it. You know, you don't go up against your parents. You're kicking and screaming, but you're going.
Yeah.
It was definitely the decision when it was over, that summer was over. I was like, it's over. We're not going back. Well, we had an agreement. If you want to, we'll sign you up. And it was over. We wanted to. And I've been with that cello ever since. Never put it down.
The seed was planted. It all makes sense now.
Oh yeah. I was thinking to myself the other day, I said, the best thing that I think my mom has ever done for me is put an instrument in my hands. Yeah. Because especially now, you know, with the pandemic and just so much just tension, right, in the atmosphere, I find myself coming back to my viola more often than ever. And it's one of the most beautiful gifts and blessings that I have to help navigate, you know, this challenging time. And so just any way that we can encourage people to put instruments in young people's hands, the emotional development, the intellectual development, all of it all sort of just works together and goes hand in hand to just make sure that we're living really full and sort of balanced lives.
Yeah.
Influence wise, Regina Carter was a huge influence, right? Like I know that the listeners, you all's listeners know about Regina Carter. And I think I had only been playing violin for about a year. And my godfather, Chip Marvin, he sent me a birthday present, a Christmas present, and it was a portable CD player. Y'all remember portable CD players?
Oh yeah.
Portable CD player was the coolest thing. I mean, even the way that it opened, it was just so cool. And one CD, and it was Regina Carter's Something for Grace CD. And that was the first time. And when I think back to it now, even in this moment, I'm like, I had started at 9 and probably by 10, I had heard Regina Carter. I had that CD in my hand. And so I still was taking my private lessons. I was still in my Suzuki books. I was still, you know, doing what my teachers told me to do. But there was this thing like tugging, right? Because when you hear Regina and you hear her improving and particularly the title track, Something for Grace, that she wrote for her mom, was just so beautiful. And then I was like, I'm about to transcribe this thing. And I learned it and it was like, okay. And then I started covering it at my little gigs, you know, or my dad's family would come over, whatever. I'm like, listen at that, which also had that Latin feel that Elise is just so like known for incorporating in so many of our arrangements. But Regina, Karen Briggs is another violinist, contemporary violinist. And the first time I heard her play Gangsta's Paradise from Dangerous Minds,
yes,
she was on Hidden Beach Records when Jill Scott was on Hidden Beach and Mike Phillips was on Hidden Beach and so many greats. And I just heard all the things that a violin could do and the audacity for me to believe I could maybe do the same. And then my parents like cheer me on, right? Dawn, Elise captured it. Our families are they're such an integral part of our journey as musicians. And I'm sure it's the same for you, Keanna.
Absolutely, it is. You know, I'm a strong proponent of really putting instruments in kids' hands young, as long as they have an attention span to do it. If they're young enough to do it, I think that it's key to so many developmental things that happen in your life. And even like one of you said earlier, even if they don't go to conservatory, you know, it helps with discipline.
Absolutely.
And so many other things that really contribute to your character that you're going to need as an adult. So it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just sitting here like chuckling to myself when Kendall was talking about Regina Carter, because she's one of my musical influences as well. And I remember my quartet in high school, she actually came and coached us one evening. I went to New World School of the Arts in high school. And I'll never forget, we were playing Duke Ellington's It Don't Mean That Thing If It Ain't Got That Swing. And we got to the da-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da, and rehearsal just halted. She was like, have y'all listened to this before? Have you heard the song before? Have you played it before? And we all just kind of looked at each other in our sort of, you know, immature, we haven't, you know, you're that musician, you have all of this virtuosity, but you're not studying the material. And we hadn't studied the music. We hadn't studied the material. And it was immediately clear to her that we hadn't studied it. She said, you're playing the most famous rhythm in this piece wrong. You guys are playing this all wrong. And so she just sort of broke it down for us in that moment. And that has stuck with me ever since. And the piece is actually a part of our String Queens repertoire. And there will never come a performance, God willing, where I will ever play that rhythm incorrectly from in high school, just from having that masterclass with Regina Carter, who's an incredible influence, I think, to all of us.
Yes.
Especially as a string player, as a woman, just so poised, so confident, but always teaching, never, afraid to give back to young string players who are coming up and just showing us all the ropes, business-wise, performance-wise, education-wise, about what we should all be doing. And I also think of my grandfather, who used to actually be a Broadway conductor of Pearlie on Broadway with Sherman Hemsley. I just found the program the other day, and I'll never forget, Christmases and just days he would pick me up from school, and we would just sort of sit around at his piano, and he would play and I would sing or play my violin, and just having him to hold on to. And I think about him now, he suffers from dementia. He's almost 90. He's a little older than 90, and he can't remember anything now. He knows how to still play his instruments. He still knows how to play the piano, right? And these are things that sort of never leave us. Yeah. And so when I think of musical influences, I sort of like to think of like a life story as opposed to just an instrumentalist.
Yes.
Right? And so I think as the string queens, and I think I can speak for all of us when I say this, we look at the whole person. Not only are you a great musician, how are you as a person? Right? Like, what are your values? What are your beliefs? What do you want to contribute towards the younger generations coming up? And I think that's where we also draw a lot of our musical influences.
Wow. Incredible that you come from a legacy. Yeah. Really. I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Thank you. Wow. I'm learning more and more as he gets older, and memories are, really starting to fade. My Uncle John, who used to actually be one of his bandmates, sent me a film score from, I think it was Christopher Walken's Walking Dead. I could be totally wrong, but it was my grandfather's original manuscript. And now I have it here, like in my home. And so these are just things that I'll cherish forever. But I didn't know when I was younger. I didn't know when I was in high school. And so I'm loving, having all of these mementos to hold on to, especially as he gets older.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's a good segue, because you guys are bringing good tidings of comfort and cheer. Hold on, I have props.
Oh, we like props. Oh my gosh.
My favorite things. It brings all the feels, all the things that make you nostalgic about the holiday season. Tell me about the release of this EP, this special holiday EP. We've all been in quarantine and really haven't been able to, musicians especially, to get out there and tour a work of art that you've produced and created. Tell me about the process of deciding, first of all, to put this thing out, and in the midst of all of this chaos that's been happening in what is 2020.
2020, right? Well, the funny thing is we had talked about it around December of 2019, sort of November. We were getting ready for, we're an ensemble in residence with Washington Performing Arts, and we're sort of at the end of our residency now. And at the time, we were in the middle of the residency preparing for a holiday concert in 2019. And so we had a little bit of holiday repertoire, but we realized we just needed a little bit more. And we were sort of reading tunes that already existed, these arrangements. And people started bringing, same way we came up with the first album, right? We all started to bring our favorite holiday songs to the table. I remember when we read Mary, Did You Know, right? Because sometimes we do start with a lead sheet just to sort of get familiar with a tune. And when we played it for the first time, it just, anyway, Mary, Did You Know, just, or at least for us, it just makes you just cry. It's just so beautiful. And so we literally wrote an arrangement specifically for that concert. And we talked about, man, we should have a holiday album. But then there was no talk of a pandemic. None of that was discussed at the time. So fast forward, okay, so January, February, so March, April, we're in quarantine. And the more we were sitting in quarantine apart from one another, the more it became, and we're watching, right, all the racism issues that are going on in the world. We're watching the pandemic take over so many communities. There seemed to be no better time, Keanna, than now. And I'll let Dawn or Elise chime in, but this was the right time, and we knew what we needed, right? And I think the process of recording the album, we recorded it on Labor Day weekend, and I think in 2 days, y'all. We spent a lot of time together to get that project done. And even the sound, I would say, and I don't know if other people pick up on it, but when I listened to the first album, and then when I listened to Our Favorite Things, our new holiday album, I can hear even the music video, right? Like when I watch, you can hear and see the effects, right? That 2020, that the roller coaster that we've all been on, we sound different. We are different.
Yeah, definitely. Different. We are different. And when we recorded the album, Our Favorite Things, we had been apart from each other. I mean, honestly, when we were shut down, we had performances lined up, and every day a new performance was canceled. And we're finding, ourselves not just separated from work, separated from family. Because even, I'm from DC, my family's in DC, but now no one go anywhere, no one see anyone. So we're separate from our families, and we're separated from each other. We're separated from our regular rehearsals. And we tried, and now when everyone is shut down, all of the apps and everything come out, and we even tried it, but it's just not the same. I think the beauty of us is our in-person just fire and just magnetic, combustion in a positive way. Yeah. But we were separated, and making the decision to do the album was the right decision. And it was, when we were together, like, yes, yes, this is what's been missing from our lives, each other. And do know that just because we were not in person, of course, we're always on the the text thread with each other. We're always in communication, but our instruments, talking to each other, man, that's a beautiful conversation they have. And when we went into the studio to create this, this album, Our Favorite.
I feel unprepared.
we felt the connection. It was like, yes, this was the right thing to do. We are ready to do it, and we owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to the world to put this out there too. It is one of those times, and we, as Kendall said, we had thought to do this. We actually, last Christmas, we wanted to have an album, but we weren't quite ready yet. And we had just come off of our debut album, but we had been talking about a Christmas album. And it's always like, not yet, not yet. Yeah. And then our producer was like, it's time. Like, you need to start thinking about it now. And quarantine hit, we're virtual everywhere. And it was the moment, and the sisterhood had to come together in our instruments to create this. We needed it. Our souls needed it.
Absolutely. And then the power of the village behind this album. This entire album was funded through a GoFundMe campaign and private donations from people who have been String Queens fans, or have seen a video, or come to a concert and wanted to help us create this new piece of work. And so we put the word out there to our fans, to our families, to our friends, to our coworkers, our colleagues, and everyone almost immediately jumped in to support, to the point where we actually had a little bit of a surplus from the donations with the creation of the album. So now we were able to create the Mary Did You Know music video. Now we're able to launch additional education initiatives. And so even though we're the people, hopping in the studio and, laying down the tracks and doing all that kind of stuff, and we have the producers and the mixers and the masters and the entire team behind the album, this was a village effort. This came from the fans. This came from our families. This came from our friends. And so we will forever be indebted to everyone who's played a part in contributing, whether it be monetarily, emotionally, spiritually, praying for us throughout the process of creating this album. We're just so grateful for all of the support from everybody.
Wow. That just goes to show you, ask and you shall receive.
Yes.
Amen. Closed mouths don't get fed.
Hello. But one thing I did want to point out is that you guys, and I tell you this, I know I've told Kendall, you guys always look amazing. Like you don't just sound good, you look good too. So tell me about how you guys put together what you're going to wear, your ensembles.
Wow.
It all really is a production. Like, do you have a stylist? Are you coming up with this yourself, or?
Girl, we a wing of prayer. It starts like this, and you guys chime in. Okay, what are we wearing? people throw out colors, and then is it glittery? Is it sparkly? Is it plain? Is it multicolored? And so then another kind of list, and it's like, okay, let's do this. And then one person, like Kendall said, I have it in my closet. So we then when Kendall shows the first picture, whoever shows the first picture, it's like, oh, I think I have that, or I know which store has that. Yeah. And it's really
shop.
It's honestly just thinking about how we want to look and just feeding off of each other, honestly. And when we're at the store, we're taking a picture. What do you think about this? Oh, I think this will go great with that. Oh, I'm going to wear the blue shoes because the blue is in Dawn's dress. Yes. And then the orange is in Kendall, but Kendall wears her blue earrings that match the blue shoes that I'm wearing. I mean, we really actually think about it, but it starts really small with, what are we wearing?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So we style ourselves, Keanna, and people ask us that all the time. We just did a concert with Washington Performing Arts, and we wore purple. And people have not seen us in purple, and people are just like, it almost seemed like, I guess, obvious to other people because the string queens and purple royalty. But it occurred to us that we'd actually never performed in purple. And so how did it start? We talked about purple, and then we just got to looking, and then before you knew it, it was like shades of purple. And so when I look at that footage, I'm just like, wow. And we always look and we're like, oh, wow, that came together so nice. It's always not the way we thought it was gonna come together. Someone's accessory may really pull it together, or a pattern. We have a ball.
Yeah. And we also have to be like comfortable. We always take comfort into consideration, because what we're doing is actually athletic. We're constantly moving from our feet to the top of our heads. And so we want to make sure that we're also wearing things that we can move in and feel comfortable with. And, I can actually move my bow arm without getting caught in a sleeve, restricting my arm from being able to move. And I think of even men sometimes who play in orchestras who always have to at least go 1 or 2 rounds practicing in their tuxedo jackets, because when you put the clothes on, it changes almost, certain parts of your technique. And so you have to get yourself acclimated to practicing, even in the clothes that you're wearing, thinking of Beyonce, right? Like running in her high heels or singing in her high heels in preparation for her performances. It's almost the same. If you have a pair of shoes that you're a little not so sure about, okay, wear them to rehearsal, practice with them in rehearsal, and tell us how you feel 2 hours later. Are these the shoes that you really want to wear for this performance, right? And so just making sure that we feel comfortable in also the clothes that we're choosing to wear as well, but in addition to being color coordinated and nice looking.
Yes, it doesn't take much. You guys are already beautiful ladies.
Thank you, Keanna.
So it really is just nice for sure. Now tell everybody, because I guess we got to wrap up here, but tell everybody they can find out about the String Queens, and most importantly, pick up the EP, Our Favorite Things.
Well, you can find us on every social media platform, just about. We are on Facebook. It's facebook.com/The String Queens. We have a website, and we've made a lot of updates to the website. One of our really exciting updates is that we have an entire page dedicated to education. So all of the education initiatives that Dawn just mentioned are education videos. We have videos on improvisation. We have some footage of us from literally virtually teaching in our classrooms. Wow. And so there's our website, thestringqueens.com, Instagram @thestringqueens. What am I missing, ladies?
My face just kidding.
It's everywhere. And the hard copy. So a lot of people, go to all the digital spaces now, right? Like hardly anybody has CDs or CD players. A lot of the new cars don't even have CD players in them, but we decided to still print hard copies because they make great stocking stuffers. And so we have a merchandise tab on our website, thestringqueens.com/merchandise. And so you can actually get your very own hard copy or copies, right, of our EP. So hopefully, did I cover everything, Keanna?
I think so. And did you give us your social media and all of that?
@The String Queens. @The String Queens.
Easy.
We have a Twitter as well.
I just want to say before we end, we were in New Jersey last summer in JPAC.
Yes.
And we actually walked by this studio on our way from NJ Pack to the hotel, and we didn't know it existed until we walked. Not that the station existed, but actually where it was.
Yes.
And we walked by, and it was like, oh my gosh, look! Oh, we should just go in. We should just go in with our instruments and just say hi, you know. And to then find out later that year that here you are going to that very station, and here we are right now, Keanna. This is a godsend. This is meant to be.
Yes,
and we're so proud of you and happy for you. And we're so glad to be here with you. Thank you so much for inviting us here. Just to think, a year and a half ago, we were walking by this station in New Jersey.
Yeah.
You know, and now we're here. I mean, we're not, you know, I feel like we're in the studio with you, honestly.
Yeah.
This is beautiful that you have us here on this.
In my living room.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's so great to know, you know, new fans and just to get to know your audience. Thank you so much for having us here. And hello, WBGO and WBGO fans. And we can't wait for you to get to know us more. Please just, you know, go check us out on, where are we? We're everywhere. We're on Amazon even too, right?
Amazon Music, that's right. Amazon, iTunes, Spotify, Tidal.
You can find us www.thestringqueens.com.
Awesome. Well, this is only the beginning. So you haven't heard the last of the String Queens. There's so much more to come from these ladies. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Dawn Johnson, Elise Sharp, Kendall Isidore.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Get into the String Queens. I want to play one more time, if you guys don't mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Happy holidays to everybody. Happy holidays, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much.
Happy holidays. Good night, ladies.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night, Keanna.
Take care.